for making time for us this morning. I'm real excited to be on the initial kickoff of what marketing is putting together for what stands to be a weekly meeting where we can all just log in and get 30 minutes of training content and not have to take it on in huge chunks. So I'm excited to use this as an avenue for the beginning of something new for our training. I have Bob Beers working the chat line for us today. Bob is our product manager, and he is going to have the microphone. And so if you have questions all along, he's going to be manning the chat panel, and would encourage you to questions, cusses, compliments, any of that you want to send through. Bob will be viewing that and bouncing any chat up into the conversation. And love to have John Walker here. John is with the University of Utah and has been running WeatherTRAK now for a good couple of years. They have some amazing statistics, saving better than 20%. And John was a beta tester of the new features we're going to talk about today. So he's going to lend us his expertise on where he kind of sees mobile mapping go in the field and how it can benefit real life users. So I will be handing the microphone back and forth. I'm going to start. Whoa, can't see this, but I'm going to be running my screen. So we're going to see in real time just the demo of WeatherTRAK Mobile 3.1 and the new features that the update to the app will provide. Bob, anything you want to jump on before we start?
Not too much. Just thanks everybody for joining with us this morning. We're excited to have this, like Ben said. And then the content that we're going to review today for mobile app 3.1 and the new features and functionalities that we're bringing to market and introducing, I think it's one of the larger releases we've had in a while. And it's something that we're really excited about for our customers in terms of time saving and efficiency and just ease of use. And so what Ben will go over today, it's something that's really exciting, and we've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
And then John, anything you want to say before we kick this guy off? Oh, John's on mute.
No, I'm good.
Okay, awesome.
No, I think it's been a really good opportunity for us to beta test the app, and it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool features that we can talk about.
Fantastic. All right, so if you just give me 1 second, I'm going to broadcast my screen to you, and we'll get started with the demo of the new features at WeatherTRAK Mobile. So with luck, what you're seeing right now is my screen. Is that true?
Yep.
Bob here, awesome, thank you. All right, so you'll notice that the app looks like 3.0. We're building on the existing infrastructure. So when you log in, the first page that you land on will be this sites page. And with this sites page, if you remember in the original release, under this overview screen, under this overview button, we had a coming soon message. We were hiding out a new feature. So I am happy to say that with the release of 3.1, we have done the update, and we have added this site overview feature. And with the site overview feature, it starts to give managers a good amount of information to make good management decisions. For example, we pipe in the IBM weather forecast, a 7-day forecast that will allow irrigation managers to step in and see what the weather's doing and proactively manage against some weather stuff. So if you want to pause your controller for a few days based on predicted weather, remember that WeatherTRAK is never going to behave in an automated way on predicted weather, but now we're giving you the tools as a manager to be able to step in and do that. So not only are we seeing the 7-day forecast, but what's going on today, as well as some high-level site information about alerts and controller behavior that will help a manager just jump on a site and get right to work and start looking at what he needs to look at and managing those controllers. Bob, anything else on the site overview that we want to touch on before we head out?
No, I think you covered it well. I think just to kind of reiterate that the forecasted weather data is just a forecast coming from IBM's highly accurate forecasting model. So it's not going to automate anything like Ben said. So it's great reference information, great to use for being proactive, but the controller will not act on any of the data that you see there.
I think it's also important to note that it's different than our ET everywhere, right? The ET information that the WeatherTRAK is getting is coming from our own internal scientists and has been signed off on weather that has already happened. This is totally separate of that, just designed to give you the right information to make good decisions.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll go back. And what we want to look at next, we want to zoom in on one site, and we're ecstatic to announce the mobile mapping features. We've been talking about adding these now for long enough that I'm excited to actually see them in the app. To understand this, we have to look at the very top button, the mapping pin at the very top of the screen. And if I touch that mapping pin at the top of the screen, it brings up our site map. And as we scroll in here, we can zoom in and see from a high level how many pins I have in my site. So each asset will be assigned a pin in the map. So you can see as we scroll in, get closer and closer, that number will start to separate as we get close enough to see the individual pins. The numbers on a pin just say that we're at an angle where we're incorporating multiple pins. So if you zoom in close enough, you'll be able to see all of the different pins that you have in your map. And you'll be able to see that little blue guy, this little you are here arrow that shows me where I am in the Google map. So the idea with mobile mapping is that I'll be able to walk the site and find the assets that I'm looking to manage and make it easier for either somebody who's not experienced with the site or a site that you don't go to as frequently. You know where everything is when you pull up on site to minimize the amount of time that it takes to perform service on this site or this system. So the blue dot is key in the management because the blue dot shows you where you are in relationship to all of the assets that you manage. So that's kind of the first thing. And then the first workflow I want to demonstrate for you is adding an asset. So down here at the bottom in the middle of the bottom of the screen, you see the plus sign, and I'll just push that little plus, and it will show me exactly all of the assets that are available to me. And it'll say, all right, what asset do you want to add? And notice here in the assets, we have all of the things that are really common to the irrigation workflow. So we have flow devices, we have storage and drainage devices, if you have a pond or a cistern. So we've got all of these pins in here that you can add into your map. If you don't find one that is an absolute fit, we have this custom pin. And that's a feature that I want to discuss very quickly. The custom pin is cool because our product management team is watching how our users are using the custom pin. And if they get a repeated request, if they see a custom pin going in for the same thing over and over, they'll just add a new pin. They'll make a new pin for our asset availability. So you go into select assets and you select the type of pin that you want to drop into the map. In this case, I'll choose a valve, and you'll see that it'll drop that pin on your person in the map. So as you're walking through, it drops the pin into the map. And what the second step in dropping a pin or identifying an asset is once you drop that pin, you have to assign it a perfect location in Google Maps. Know that in the Google Maps, the tracking is designed to be plus or minus 10 feet. So that pin may or may not drop exactly where you want to do it. If it's fine where it is, leave it and move on. But in most cases, you'll just hold and tap that pin, and you'll see it bounce up over your finger. You can't see my finger, but as soon as your finger grabs it, you can just drag and drop it into any location that you want. Once it is confirmed in the proper location, we'll hit the check mark, and that will take us to the asset details, where we can go in, and I think super importantly, we can take a photo. You can either choose a photo from your library or use your device camera. Sorry for that. To take a picture and then add it to the asset inventory. So you can take a picture of whatever valve you're managing, or you can take multiple pictures. So you can take a picture of the valve up close and then take a step back and show where it lives in the landscape. Lots of different options. As many as 4 pictures can be stored to an asset. Now we want to talk about this assign asset. And the assign asset field is the only thing that will actually be required of an asset. And this is important because this is how we start to tie all of these components together. So when I'm assigning this valve, it says, what controller do you want to assign this valve to? And if you hit the controller, it will give you all of the controllers on site that you can select from. Or after you've assigned it to the right controller, it says, what station do you want to assign this valve to? So if this is station 7, we can just assign that to station 7. And now in the backnet of WeatherTRAK.net, we know how it all ties together. We say that this asset belongs to this controller and this station. And you'll see why that's valuable in a little bit. That's a key detail in the operation of some upcoming functions. So that is the only thing that you'll be required to fill out. And if you try and hit save without doing that, it'll just tell you, it'll just gently remind you, hey, this is required fields. But the asset details let you put in anything that you want, right? So we can start to name this asset. We can put in, if we're tagging a valve, for example, we can put in the manufacturer of that valve, the model of that valve, the size of that valve. And then as you manage these assets, the next time you get an alert on this station, for example, you can just look at this asset before you go to the site and know what type of valve you have, what size of valve you have, so you can have the right diaphragm kit or the right solenoid to make an easy repair once you're out on site. So I always say fill in as little or as much of this information as you have patience to fill out. None of it's required, but the more you put in, the more valuable it becomes long term. And then last, we have this add note, where you'll probably, if you've played with the asset manager in WeatherTRAK.net, you'll know that each asset, you can leave a note, maintenance history, or any sort of note history about this asset. So if you are tracking repairs on individual assets, this is a great place to have that kind of information. Makes managing them long-term, knowing the last time you touched this valve and what you did to it, can help you make a fast repair this time. So we add any notes that we want, we add all of the details that we want, and when we're done, up in the upper right-hand corner, we have this save button, which will save this asset into the map. As soon as I hit this save button, just so you understand, this is saved into the cloud. So this asset that I just put into the map, I could also pull up on WeatherTRAK.net on the sitemap tool. So it's packing all this information into the cloud. So it is in real time updating all of the site and all of the other components of the WeatherTRAK system. And that's really all there is to dropping a pin or identifying an asset. Bob, do you have anything to add on to that?
No, not too much. Just to take clear advantage of any of the areas where you can indicate notes, particularly as it relates to locations too, because sometimes valve boxes aren't always going to be in the most obvious spot. And so you can make a note, hey, this is just behind the bush or just beyond the shrub, and then kind of give anybody else who might be servicing that particular valve box or that area just a heads up on where that might be located or anything they might see. But otherwise, looking great.
Okay. And then once you've dropped your pins, let's go look at what a real live, everybody who's seen me ever do a demo has seen me pull up the Meadowview HOA. That has been the sandbox for everybody to try these new tools. So we can go into the Meadowview HOA and see what a site that's been totally built out looks like. Now, obviously, my blue dot won't be on this site because I'm not living there, but as you start to zoom in, you can see that I have a lot of pins in this map. So I can just get that overhead view and start to see them come into frame. And then when I see all of my pins, this is when this really becomes a critical piece of the management puzzle, right? You can see where you are on the site. You can say, all right, what valve is this? And it will bring up station 8 or whatever valve you're encountering, right? You can see your little blue circle. You can see what assets you're surrounded by. If you pull it out of the map, you can hit the I button in the top of this box in the upper right hand of this little station valve box. Brings up all of the data that has been put in here, right? This is where we can lean back on the pictures. Here's the picture here is a training that Bob and I did in Salt Lake City not too long ago. So I can just check all of that stuff out. If I'm looking for a specific asset, in the upper left-hand the upper left-hand corner, we have the filtering tool. So you see that little filtering tool right there. If I turn that on at the bottom of the screen, it brings up my filters. So if I wanted to just see the valves, say there's so many pins in this map that it's making my eyeballs hurt, right? I just want to filter out anything that's not a valve. And if I use that filter tool, turn on the valve filter, it will just show the valves. If I push that button again, it turns that off and you can see all of the assets. So you can easily go through and manage the map and find what you're looking for. The last piece of what you're looking for happens in the upper right-hand corner where you see the magnifying glass. This is our search feature. So you can go in here and if I'm just looking for the controller, let's see. What is the controller on this? Nope. Technical difficulties here, sorry. I can scroll, I can either, if I know the name, I can type it in, or I can scroll down through, oh, there you go, orange, and find that controller, find what you're looking for. So the search tools make it easy to kind of hunt stuff down. Once you have found the pin in the map, we have a great feature here, the mapping tool. If I click this mapping tool, it brings me right into the Google map and drops that pin in a Google map. Shows that I'm 15 hours away from that location. And I can either, I can use all of the Google tools to kind of just navigate to where I need to be or plan a flight plan that allows me to stop by my distributor and pick up the right parts on the way. So that's kind of finding stuff on the map. Bob, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
I don't think so. I think covered that really well. A couple questions that have come in that kind of relate to that. Input around, color-coded statuses or other things we can indicate with the asset. So today, the asset statuses won't update in time. They won't update by color or by according to what state they might be in, but that's something we are 100% looking at. We love that input. Other asset types as well. There is one that will change that I think Ben will cover that changes colors, but I'll let him get to that shortly.
That's next.
But that's kind of the reason why I kind of segue that is just as we love the idea of color-coded assets and, reflecting what state they might be in, and that's kind of what we're looking toward. And Ben will kind of show off one of our first steps toward that.
Okay, and so what Bob is referring to there is this icon right here that you see highlighted in the center of the screen, the little water droplet. Now, we are using this water droplet to show where irrigation is happening. So oftentimes the valve is in a different place than the actual irrigation. And so this little water droplet allows us to go and just see as we walk the site where our irrigation is happening. So, come on. I got fat fingered there. There we go. So this station location shows us where the water is coming up in the field. And if I push this, this has a unique feature that takes us straight into manual operation. So the idea here is that we're becoming more and more dependent or using this sitemap more and more, and we don't want to bounce back and forth to do our wet checks. So as you're walking the site, you see your own little blue dot. You see one of these station locations. You can push this and say, I want that to turn on. If I hit this start button, it takes me right into, without the lag. Sorry, I'm lagging here. Takes me right into the manual operation. Takes you right to the other pieces of the page that you're already familiar with. Sends the signal to turn that station on in the field. So this is manual operation through the map, which I think is super cool and fun to play with. Now it just sends you right back to the manual irrigation page. So you can manage it from there. If you wanted to turn it on or off or add minutes or whatever, you can lean on your experience with that manual by station function. So it's all familiar. And then when it actually starts to irrigate, you'll see it turn blue. That's what Bob was talking about. The icon changes to show you that irrigation is happening on that station. This is going to be useful for those sites where you might have multiple techs running WeatherTRAK mobile, and you can see who's managing what and what is running right now, so you don't run into each other. Anything else, Bob?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of a quick hit here for a couple questions that have come in. Typing as fast as I can, guys, so try to get to all your questions. But the data that goes into the sitemap in the mobile app will also be reflected in WeatherTRAK Central also. And so when we add notes for a station asset or any of the other asset types, that information will also be reflected in WeatherTRAK Central as well.
Okay, awesome. So that's the super high level introduction to mobile mapping. Hope that gives you some ideas of the tools. Oh, one last thing I forgot, and I need to show before I throw to John Walker. If you have an existing asset that you want to move, you log in and station 12 is not where you want it to be. Up in the upper left-hand corner, there's the lock and unlock feature. So if I select a asset that I want to manage, I can open up the unlock feature and then again just drag and drop that pin. So that lock and unlock feature is one that has already caught a few of my users off guard. So that little green lock at the top locks this map so you can't accidentally move assets around. So if you need to move one, unlock it, move it, and then relock it. All right. Now I would like to introduce to you my friend John, who is from the University of Utah and who has been managing WeatherTRAK for a good long time, who is also a beta tester. And I would just like for him to talk about his experience using WeatherTRAK, specifically WeatherTRAK Mobile, and what he thinks WeatherTRAK Mobile will do for our customers. John? John, are you on mute? Oh, I'm going to take me out
Yeah,
of this.
you got it now.
Okay.
I was muted. Yeah, actually the beta test has been great for us. We've been able to go around and mark a lot of assets that we have. As we've been working with it, we have a lot of stuff through our GIS department on campus. But it's been kind of difficult to get more of the valves and hose bibs and all the smaller assets marked because it's a lot to do and there's only 2 people in the GIS department. So yeah, it's been really great to be able to have each irrigation technician go out and be able to mark their own assets. One thing like Bob was talking about, one of the things I really like about the feature is being able to be on site, mark the valve on site, and then we have a lot that are like back behind junipers or buried under bark mulch, and you can clear that out, mark the asset, take a picture of it, put a description in, 5 feet off the sidewalk, 3 feet from this tree. And then when we have new irrigation techs or someone that doesn't know the area, they're looking for a valve box, they can just pull up that asset, see it where the pin's dropped on the map, but then also be able to see the picture, the description that was put in for it. And then it's going to make it a lot easier for new irrigation technicians when they come in, or people, coming into a new area. It'll be a lot easier for them to find that.
And something I'd like to add, just from the contractor point of view, I think that this is something that contractors could proactively sell to their customers to create this kind of institutional documentation that belongs to them so they know where all of their assets live. I can tell you when I was an irrigation tech, whenever I left a site, the map that I made left with me. And so to have all of the information about all the locations of all of these assets will be invaluable through time as properties change hands and go from maintainer to maintainer. It will flatten that curve. It'll shorten the learning curve to know where all of the system components are and every point of management that you might have.
Yeah, I think it definitely will. One of ours, so we have 9 irrigation technicians on campus. Each one has their own area, but if someone's off for the day, they take vacation for a week, we have a binder with all of our information located in the office that someone can go grab if they're working in an area. But this just makes it a lot easier to use. Everyone has it on their phone right now. So if you're switching areas, if you're helping someone else out, you need to find something quick, it's right there. You don't have to go back to the shop to find a big binder with all the information in it.
Absolutely. To have that information in your pocket will make you more efficient out in the field, I think. Will save you a bunch of time. All right. So it looks like we have about 1 minute left. Janine Jackson? Oh, Bob, do you have any other questions you've fielded from the chat
I think
line?
just kind of more of a high-level point. Still have a number of questions coming in, but I think one thing that we can point people to is to go to our website. So on our product news page, we've updated it with a ton of content around the mobile app release. So you have questions around user permissions or different functionalities, or what is supported and not supported according to the device type that you have, what version it is, or other things like that. If you go to our website, go to the product news page, and then we have tons of good content there just to review how it works and where to find more information. But you guys had a lot of great questions and a lot of great input, so love the interaction and the engagement. This has been fantastic. I'll continue to try to follow up with everybody and respond to any questions, but yeah, thank you.
Yes, and feel free to email support@hydropoint.com with any questions that you have. This recording will be available and we'll email it out. And then hopefully you guys will tune in next week as we go over spring startups for controllers.
Sounds great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys. Thank you.